thanking you for the opportunity to be here with you today and share my story. I was born in Lomé, Togo in West Africa. My older sister and I came to Denver with my mom when I was about 2 years old. She brought us here with hopes of a bigger and better opportunities than she had growing up. She had the idea that we would be able to go above and beyond her experiences in regards to education. I've been in Denver Public Schools my entire educational career, and currently I'm a senior at Kunsmiller Creative Arts Academy. Most people call me Muji. When I was in 3rd grade, I changed schools from one whose demographics were primarily Black and brown students to one who was predominantly white. When I got there, most of the teachers and students couldn't pronounce my name. I learned at that young age that I had 3 options. Option 1, I could repeatedly correct people on how to say my name. Option 2, I could let it slide and allow them to mispronounce my name. Option 3, I could simplify it to something that was more comfortable for other people. The first 2 options made me cringe and honestly were exhausting. Simplifying my name from Moujibatou to Muji was the easiest choice. To be clear, Muji was not created solely for this purpose. Prior to this, it was a name used at home by family. With this experience, it went from an intimate nickname to the name I would be known by until today. It wasn't until very recently that I truly reflected on the significance of that change. I don't dislike being called Muji. However, I am just now recognizing that there's an immense difference between having a nickname and effectively changing your name for the comfort of others. Reflecting on this experience has made me realize that I am one out of many DPS students who have had to assimilate and change significant parts of themselves. Sometimes it is not a simple nickname that they go by. Many students end up compromising their cultural identities. Personally, I've become conditioned to introducing myself as Muji. My experience stems from a lack of representation as well as cultural barriers between students and their educators. Students from marginalized communities can find it hard to connect to the learning in the classroom because there's often no cultural relevance. It's a slightly watered down reflection of the society we live in, and there's seldom any space for students to reflect on this. I didn't find my space to do this until freshman year at KCA. I joined the Student Voice and Leadership class, and in that class, I had the space and the materials to critically think and analyze our school system and my position within it. I was introduced to Challenge 5280 and the Student Board of Education, a collection of students from different schools throughout the district who work to identify problems within their schools and the district and come up with solutions through actionable policies. That year, with the help of our leadership coach, Mr. Anthony Abelwhite, we conducted research by inspecting our school performance framework, SPF, data. We recognized that our school was behind, especially when we looked at our students of color, low socioeconomic students, and students with disabilities. Our benchmarks were lower than that of our white counterparts. This was not only a reflection of our school, but many other DPS schools as well. We concluded that the issue was a lack of relationship between students and teachers due to cultural barriers. In turn, we saw low expectations from implicit biases, the root cause. Essentially, unconscious cultural biases create the conditions for underachievement. To us, the most effective ways to eliminate this would be to have students and teachers in the same room having the same conversation. Hence our policy proposal that year. A student-led professional development unit for teachers on cultural education that would serve to educate teachers on implicit bias and how they show up in the classroom, as well as putting students in the same room with their educators to have real conversations. A key part of this would be the student-led aspects. Students would create and teach the lessons, grade the work, answer questions. It would be a shift in the power dynamic we usually see in the classroom, but most importantly, it creates an environment of true learning partnerships. This is now the 3rd year that we are implementing this culturally responsive professional development unit at KCAA, and I can truthfully and proudly say that it functions how it was structured and does even more. That is not to say that the problem is solved though, because we are but a small part of the solution. There is still much more work to do in relation to achieving authentic and collaborative learning relationships between students and the authoritative figures within school buildings. We and other schools are still working to create the change we want to see, but it takes a certain kind of support and a certain kind of space for students to be able to do so. I mentioned that the realization about my name was a recent reflection. A reflection I probably would not have had, or maybe until much later, had I not joined that leadership class. I would not be part of the student board or the Young African American and Latinx Leaders Group, and I would not have my voice heard in spaces like this. Personally, though I'm sure my peers would agree, student voice and leadership gave me the opportunity to grow my critical consciousness, and especially as an African, low socioeconomic, Muslim female student in Denver Public Schools, learn to navigate our current society with all of who I am. However, not every space can be the ideal space. The ideal space would have passion, understanding, freedom to be themselves for both students and teachers. I have Mr. Abelpipe, who is actually with us tonight, so shout out to him. He cares about me as a student, but also about the work that we do together. I know he truly understands the meaning of student voice through the guidance and knowledge he bestows upon me when he can without overstepping. Mr. Abelpipe also trusts me as his student. You have his trust from the moment you walk into his room until you don't. That has allowed me to fuel my passions and grow my critical understanding of the world with no limits whatsoever. I would say the first step would be to ensure that we have more educators like Mr. Abelpipe. Educators who are given the necessary resources to make safe spaces like these possible for students. Spaces like these that exist solely for the reason of student advocacy are far and few between. Students know the system is unfair. We don't need to be taught that there are discrepancies in the way the system is set up for us versus them. What we do need is the support to gain the knowledge and vocabulary to be able to vocalize and articulate what we already know to be true through our own personal narratives. In this way, we can advocate for ourselves, for change. Students are stepping up every day in many different ways to be the change they want to see. We just ask you to join us on that journey. Where your dollars go matters, and they would be pivotal in making sure that students have the resources and spaces they need, so student advocacy can become more the norm than a rarity. For the students, by the students, with your support. Thank you.